Welcome back to Variologies. My name is Dan Calcagno. Today we're going to explore the war in heaven depicted in Revelation chapter 12, but from a preterist perspective. In chapter 12, John starts with a vision that flashes back to the birth of Jesus. Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant, and she cried out because of her labor pains and the agony of giving birth. In my opinion, the vision is sort of like zooming out, showing us the broader context of the book of Revelation. The woman here, I think, represents faithful Israel. The sun, the moon, and the stars reference Genesis 37:9, where Joseph dreams of his family as these celestial bodies bowing to him, and therefore these symbolize Israel. And the woman, according to verse 2, is pregnant with the Messiah. And this represents, I think, how the Messiah comes from Israel. The Messiah comes out of Israel, and in fact is the climax of salvation history, the story of Israel. Next, John sees, "Then I witnessed in heaven another significant event. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 crowns on his head. His tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky, and he threw them to the earth, or the land. And he stood in front of the woman as she was about to give birth, ready to devour her baby as soon as it was born." This creature called a dragon could allude to the mythological Leviathan creature from Job chapter 41. But in any event, it represents Satan, the spiritual power behind the Roman Empire. The heads, horns, and crowns symbolize kings and rulers like it did in the book of Daniel. And the dragon's readiness to devour the baby refers to, at the very least, Herod's attempt to kill Jesus as a child. Then John describes, "She gave birth to a son who was to rule all nations with an iron rod, and her child was snatched away from the dragon and was caught up to God and to his throne." The Messiah is meant to rule all nations with an iron rod, according to Psalm chapter 2. But he was crucified, but then resurrected and ascended to heaven, where he received all authority. John continues saying, "And the woman fled into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place to care for her for 1,260 days. And so we are jumping to, in my opinion, the late 60s of the first century during the Roman-Jewish War. Jesus had told his disciples to flee to the mountains, and early church tradition tells us that the Jerusalem church escaped to Pella, as noted by Eusebius. And then we're told there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, and the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. The great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels." And so Michael and his angels defeat Satan and his angels, casting them to the earth, or the land. What I think this means is that Satan no longer has any power to accuse God's people, because Jesus' death and resurrection has broken his power. As Paul said, "Now there is no condemnation for those who belong to the Messiah, Jesus." John then hears, "It has come at last, salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down to the land, the one who accuses them before our God day and night. And they have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die." And so this proclaims the arrival of God's kingdom. Although Satan is cast down and still causes earthly harm, he is ultimately a defeated power. Believers are to stand firm, not fearing death. John continues, "When the dragon realized that he had been thrown down to the land, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child, and she was given 2 wings like those of a great eagle, so she could fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness. There she could be cared for and protected from the dragon for a time, times, and half a time." The woman, again, faithful Israel, escapes to the wilderness, and this represents the Jerusalem church's escape to Pella during the Roman-Jewish War. Then the dragon tried to drown the woman with a flood of water that flowed from his mouth, but the earth helped her by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that gushed out from the mouth of the dragon. And this symbolizes Satan's attempt to destroy faithful Israel, but they were spared. While the earthly Jerusalem and the earthly temple was being destroyed, God was protecting the heavenly city and the heavenly temple. And the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children, all who keep God's commandments and maintain their testimony for Jesus. So Satan, stripped of his heavenly power, sought to destroy faithful believers. And it's true, the Jerusalem church was able to flee to safety, but other believers faced severe persecution during this tribulation. Despite all this, I think what we can take from this is that yes, there was a war in heaven, and Satan has been defeated.